I made a very personal video recently and I almost didn't put it out. All the way through recording it, I kept thinking, this probably won't see the light of day. All the way through editing it, probably won't see the light of day. Up until around 5 minutes before it was due to go live, I kept thinking, I might pull that video, you know, I don't think it has a place on the internet. I don't think anyone really cares and or needs to know about these things. But I tried to shut out all the negative thoughts that I was having and I just let it go. And I'm so glad I did. The positive response in the comment section was really overwhelming, so I'm really grateful. If you're one of those people or just like the videos in general, to have them on in the background, whatever it may be, thank you. And with that being said, let's get into today's action. First of, well, I say many visits. I think we're probably going to just dip in and out of CEX throughout this video as I do, but I thought I'd have a look at the PlayStation section. This is from today's visit, so probably only a couple of days ago in real time as you're watching this, because obviously had to edit the video. But I don't often pick up games for the PlayStation anymore. Of course, I did trade in my almost entire PS4 and 5 collections, and it was mainly down to the fact that I wanted to focus on Xbox. Of course, I picked up a Series X. If you haven't been watching the series, I switched over to the Xbox because I am an Xbox fanboy at heart, right? I know there's not many of us left, but I just love playing on the Xbox, and I've played so many more games on the Xbox in the very short space of time that I've had one than I ever did on the PS5. I think I completed maybe 2 or 3 games on the PS5 in the 3 or 4 years I had it, and I've already completed like 11 or 12 on the Xbox in the very short space of time I've had it. I think I've had it about a month at this point, and I'm just absolutely loving going through Game Pass, going through my physical games. But that doesn't mean, of course, that I'm never going to pick up a game for the PlayStation ever again, because the more I play, the more I'm just really enjoying playing games for the sake of playing games. And I've spoken about this recently. It's taken me a long time to get back to this point where I have love of video games again. I not fell out of love with it by any stretch. Take a note of that, by the way. £22 for Expeditions, right? A Mud Runner game on the PS5. Just remember that, and we'll come back to it later on in the video. So it's taken me a long time to get back to this point where I love playing video games, and I look at a video game for the fun of a game rather than a video, or, you know, what can I get out of it other than just playing it. It's more like, can I record it? Can I make a video out of it? Or can I get achievements from it? Now I look at a game, will I enjoy playing it? Is it a game that I think I'll have fun going through? And I spent so many years just doing FIFA and nothing else, maybe Football Manager, not really playing much of anything, maybe dipping in and out of GTA or Red Dead or something. But now I'm looking at anything and everything. I mean, I'm willing to give anything a go these days, and I love it as well. I can't wait to go back and play a game. Like tonight now, I'm thinking, well, I've got the game I'm currently going through. I'm actually playing through Wreckfest, and I've very nearly finished it. In fact, I think tonight could be the final sort of stint, if you will, that I'm going to go through it and play through it and finish it. And I've enjoyed it for the most part, but when I played it on PlayStation, for some reason I just couldn't get into it. I just wasn't a game I was enjoying. I maybe played through a few races and thought, yeah, fine, whatever, and I turned it off. But now I'm very close to actually finishing it. So in that jaunt through CEX, unfortunately, there was nothing that I found. I was specifically looking for steelbooks and games with slipcovers, because I've noticed recently in other people's videos that they're picking up sort of, not special edition games, but just games that have slipcovers that you don't often see. And of course there are the games that I didn't even know existed actually up until recently, and I've seen them in a couple of people's videos. They are the sort of only on PlayStation games. Now, I'm not a massive fan of going for subsets of things. I spoke recently about PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. But going after full sets on a console or even subsets or anything, it's not necessarily something I'm interested in. However, as the PlayStation is a system, the PS4 and the 5 kind of go hand in hand for me. As it's a system that I'm only really looking to collect the exclusives on, the only on PlayStation subset, which Wayne's World of Gaming talked about recently in his video, and I've seen a few other people mention it recently as well, is actually something that I wouldn't mind going after. I'm not going to actively look for them. Like, I'm not going to go on eBay or anything and hunt them out and buy them. If I see them in CEX, I'm going to buy them. Turns out if you do see them in CEX, it's probably worth buying them anyway, because they are worth more than the standard copy of the game. But of course, CEX will charge standard copy of the game for these. So I am going to look for the PlayStation exclusives, but the only on PlayStation with the slipcovers I think could be a subset that I might look into. Side note, I am actually seeing, or rather I'm not seeing, steelbooks that often anymore in CEX. I don't know whether it's just my CEX, but I've noticed that they're putting an awful lot more behind the counter these days than they ever used to. Of course they have glass cabinets and that's full of retro and phones and watches and all that nonsense, but they do have a tremendous amount of things behind the counter on shelves, displaying them of course, but it's very difficult to go up to the counter and say, no, don't mind me, I'm just looking at what you have for sale here. Of course, there's loads of people trying to be served, there's trade-ins everywhere, there's games everywhere, you're trying to look at what's behind the counter, the staff are trying to do their job. It's not ideal, I'm not a fan of it. I've seen loads of other people mention it in their videos as well. They're not a fan of it, and their CEX has started doing it. So we might actually see the end of a sort of big box game being on the shelf, or even steelbooks being on the shelf in CEX, or at least in mine. But with that being said, let's get into a couple of sales. One of which I sold a long time ago, forgot to mention it, sold off the PS5 and 4 collections, or rather traded them in of course, and again forgot to mention it. So Like a Dragon I picked up ages ago in CEX. I think I picked it up for a tenner, used credit of course. I actually sold it before I traded all my PS4 and 5 games in because I noticed it was worth selling rather than trading. So Like a Dragon actually trades in for 8 now, but at the time it only traded for 6, so I decided to sell it, and I think I got like £11 something for it. I'll obviously throw it up on screen for you. So I'm going to add that cash to the series because it makes sense. And I sold another game. It's actually a GameCube game that I kind of forgot I had. It's ISS. Now I have this on the PlayStation 2, so I have it on the GameCube as well. I don't know, but I sold this for a whopping £2 on Vinted. So again, I will add that to the overall balance, which kind of makes up for what I'm about to do. So I'm perusing Vinted, as one does of an evening, and I saw a PlayStation 4 game that I just never see. And that gets me a little bit excited because you know it's going to trade in for a couple of quid. They came absolutely battered. If I was looking to put them into the collection, I'd be a bit annoyed, but a CEX take anything, as we're about to find out in the next clip, I wasn't that bothered. So anyway, Deer Hunter Reloaded. Never heard of it before. Hunting games, for some strange reason, have some decent value. Yes, we know it's broken, get on with it. So the disc has been moved out of its off its spindle, if you will, but it's in reasonable condition. It probably did take a little bit of damage in transit, but I've traded this in, it's gone in fine and everything, and I would have been a bit annoyed actually had they not taken it, because I picked up a game today and I'm going to show you the disc is absolutely disgusting. It's terrible. It's beyond repair, I think, but it's going to have to go back. Either way, the next game is going to be Hitman 2. I don't think I've ever played this. It's far cheaper on the Xbox than it is on the PlayStation, which is very handy because, of course, I'm not going to play it on the PlayStation. That trades in for 8. Deer Hunter Reloaded traded in for 10, giving me a grand total of 24... No, I'm joking, of course. It's £18. How much did I spend? 8. So it's a £10 trade profit, if you will, and we're going to take £8 off the overall balance. Now I've already traded these in. I took them in today. I got £18, I would say on a voucher, but they just took it off the balance of the games that I picked up. I've had a few games on my shelf for quite a while, just sat there waiting to be put into the collection. I've got no idea if they've gone down in value since I bought them. Let's be honest, knowing me, they probably have done, but I've had them for weeks and they've just been sat there ready for me to do a video. So let me go through those first. Now all 4 of these are games that I owned on the PlayStation when I traded them all in, and I knew I'd have to buy back again. I didn't buy them all on that day, but it was only a couple of days later I went in and I picked these up. First of which is going to be Resident Evil 2. That was £8 and it still is. A couple of these have actually changed in price. One's gone down, the other's gone up, so swings and roundabouts. I am going to pick up all of the Resident Evil games on the Xbox. They are cheaper than that on the PlayStation, which is always handy, and it's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to go over to Xbox in the first place. This is actually available on Game Pass, but as you know, I don't care. I want them physical. What is your favourite Resident Evil game? The second one is actually my favourite one. It's actually the one I played first for some reason. Next game is again on Game Pass. This one has actually gone down from £12 to £10 in CEX right now. It is Mafia, the Definitive Edition. I love Mafia. Mafia 2 is up there with one of the best games I've ever played. Honestly, the story in it is so good. The gameplay is really, really good. I I think it's finally getting the recognition that it deserves, the whole Mafia thing. Mafia 3 maybe not so much, but Mafia in general is such a great franchise and really, really good games, and I am very much looking forward to playing through these again. Well, again, like, whether they're on Game Pass or not, I don't care. One day it won't be, right? And then I'll be grateful that I picked it up. I'm not sure if this is on Game Pass. I don't think it is. I think the one that came out after this is. This was only £5, still is £5. It's Mortal Kombat X. Now, there is a Mortal Kombat XL, which I had on the PlayStation, but it's, I think anyway, only a couple of extra characters or something. I don't think it's anything big. I might be wrong. Maybe it's extra story. I never actually played through it properly when I had it on the PlayStation. Played through 11 on the PS5. Loved that. Own it now on the Xbox as well, and it's on Game Pass, but this isn't, and it was only a £5 because it dropped fairly recently. So yeah, big fan of Mortal Kombat. Really looking forward to picking up 1 as well, but 20 quid right now, just a little bit too much when you know what Mortal Kombat games tend to do in terms of price. I mentioned in a video recently that I was thinking about keeping this channel as a pickups only kind of channel where I talk about games that are up and coming, and of course showing you the pickups that I get for the collection, going out and hunting and things like that. And then when it comes to actually playing the video games, I'm not going to do playthroughs or anything, but doing sort of retrospective reviews and stuff, I've tried here on the channel and they can do okay, but the large general consensus is don't really care. So I'm going to put that on a second channel, and I talked about it recently. A lot of people said, yeah, that's a good idea, I'll subscribe to it if you do it. So I've set it up. It's called TVM Retrospective rather originally, and the link for it is in the description. I may or may not have a video up right now, and I probably will re-upload some of the videos that I already have on this channel that are based on retrospective reviews, but I've got an awful lot lined up. Few that are already recorded, ready to go. So if you want to check out actual game reviews, me playing the games, talking about the games, my experience with them, etc., go over there. Some will be funny, some will be more serious. But as I mentioned, link in the description if you're interested in that kind of thing. Now back to the video. This next game is just an absolute staple in my opinion. You have to own this if you have a PS4 or an Xbox. And I know you're going to look at it and go, do you really? Walking Dead Telltale series. The Telltale games are phenomenal. I had this on the PlayStation. It went up to the dizzy heights of about 28 quid once upon a time. In fact, I think it went to 32 when the last season of The Walking Dead came out. I said it was going to happen, and then it dropped all the way down when the hype died down. This is, or was, only 15. It's now actually gone back up to 18. I'm not quite sure what it is on PlayStation. So I love these games because it's just an extension of the universe. There is actually a Telltale Game of Thrones game that passed me by back in the day. I absolutely love Game of Thrones, although that wasn't always the case. I watched it when it first came out, there or thereabouts anyway, maybe 4 or 5 seasons in. I started watching it, caught up, and then watched through it all like everyone else did. Got really disappointed by the final season and vowed never to watch it again because they ruined it. And then I watched it again, and maybe I thought, well, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. I don't know. And then recently, for some reason, I watched it again. Of course, I've been watching House of Dragon, rewatched that, ready for the new season, loving that at the moment. And don't worry, if you're not into Game of Thrones or House of Dragon, I won't dwell on this too much, but after watching season 8 again for like the 3rd or 4th time, I'm actually coming round to the idea that it's not necessarily as bad as I first thought it was. Don't get me wrong, plenty of things there that I don't like. Anyway, so the Game of Thrones game, the actual game on the 360 for £6, I want to pick it up, and of course the Telltale series I want to pick up as well. Let me know if there's more than 5 episodes, because I don't actually know, because this passed me by when it first came out. I will wait until I find it. It might end up going up in price a little bit more before I do find it, but I'm not the kind of person who likes to go on eBay or anything like that to buy games unless they're like a really, really good deal. I'm not going to hunt them down because the thrill of the hunt, if you will, is kind of what I'm into. I really like going into a CEX and seeing what they've got to offer, or going into a pawn shop or even a charity shop or something and just seeing what they have, and then coming out with a few games that you've been looking for a while. I don't know, it just gives me that greater sense of achievement, if you will. Anyway, with all that being said, we're adding those 4 games to the collection right this second, and we're going to take all of that credit off the balance, which as you can see leaves me with a fair bit left, and that takes me to another trip to CEX. So I've been looking on the app for a fair few days for new games traded in. I was really hoping that sort of the back end of the summer holidays people would have sort of big clear outs, or there would be a lot of games traded, and they just weren't, and people were buying them up and not trading them in. There hasn't really been an awful lot of movement in my CEX with regards to the 360 games. Now, I have sort of not taken a step back by any stretch, but I'm sort of more focused these days on Xbox One and Series X games, just because it's a new console to me, and I'm sort of going through the backlog of games I really want to play that I've looked at for a while now. I have a massive desire to play through them, but I'm still looking at 360 games. Actually, I have two to show off to you in today's episode, one of which really, I mean, I don't have good luck with this sort of franchise, if you will. This is now, I think, the second or third time I've bought a game in this franchise, and it's going to have to go back, and I don't think it's going to be repairable. That is the Call of Juarez covered in gravy. I do need it, but I'm not buying it in that poor condition. So I check every night to see if there are new games traded that I will want to pick up, because you have to kind of be quick when it comes to 360 these days. If there's something that's rare or doesn't get traded in that often, you have to get it there and then, otherwise it'll be gone. I wouldn't mind picking up this Steelbook, but it was just too badly damaged. It was the same price, of course, as a normal game. I don't have Forza 4, or I was thinking about this the other day, actually. I would like to get all of the Forzas. The first one isn't on the 360, it's of course the original Xbox, but the second one is, and all the way up until whatever number, and I'd like to pick them up because I do want to go through them all in order. It's going to take me a hell of a long time to play through them, but it's something that I want to do, so I do need to pick them all up, but they were all so cheap, because they're all available on Game Pass, of course, that I will do it at some point. I want this game. It has come down in price since I wanted it first time, but this is absolutely ruined. The inside cover is disgusting, the case is cracked, it didn't have a manual, and £2.50, that's just too much to pay. I'm not doing it. I put my foot down. So, as I move on here and I'm having a little look through, no promo copies, as there never are in this CEX. My local just does not deal in promo copies for some reason, they just never get traded in. I really wanted this, but it was classics, and I know what you're thinking. Look behind it, Div, because there's one there, and that's exactly what I picked up. You need this in your collection if you're into any sort of retro whatsoever, and I am, of course, so why not? It's just an excuse to be able to play Streets of Rage on a slightly bigger screen. I know what you're thinking. Which disc did they give you? I'm not going to go back and change it. I can't be bothered. It's only £6. It's fine. I mean, the disc at the end of the day is the disc, right? It plays. It doesn't really matter too much. You don't display the disc. But that will annoy someone who is going after a classics collection. And it will annoy someone if, for example, they got given a classics disc in a normal case. Because some people are quite anal about it. Luckily, I'm not too bad and I can get by with that. My Midnight Club, for example, has a classics disc, but it's a normal game, and I do have a few other games that have just normal cases, but they're promo copy discs, for example. But £6 is a really good price to pay for that. You get some really good games on there. I know everyone bashes on Altered Beast. I love that game. I think it's fantastic. Everyone who ever talks about it says it's crap, but I don't know, I like it. Back in we go for one final little peruse through the 360 section. I won't make you wait too long for the next one because you can kind of already see it, to be fair. But I absolutely love the franchise. I'm sure most of us do. And I picked up one of the games on the Mega Drive a while ago, and it didn't play. This, by the way, I wanted to pick up. The condition of it just wasn't there. It didn't come with a manual either. Universe at War, an RTS, for those who are interested. It's not the best, if I'm honest. I'm not a massive fan of it, but I wouldn't mind picking it up and giving it another go. Got fresh eyes these days, of course. But this is the game that I wanted. Toy Story 3. And as I mentioned, I was trying to mention before Universe at War rudely cut me off. So I picked up Toy Story on the Mega Drive quite a while ago, and it was actually from this CEX. The label was dirty. That's the best way I can explain it. It wasn't ripped or anything, a bit faded but dirty. The case was disgusting as well, and after trying to play it, it just wouldn't play. And then I cleaned it with some alcohol and an earbud and everything, you know, how you do with Mega Drive games, right? And it just wouldn't play, and I took it back. Oh, we don't have a Mega Drive to test it, we don't have another one, here's your credit back. Well, I picked this up today, Toy Story 3, £8 spent, reasonable price to pay, because this, if you've played it, you know this is a decent game. Maybe it's not as good as the one back on the PlayStation or even on the Mega Drive, but it's a decent game and I really like it. And it comes complete with manual as well. The manual's in really good condition, and of course that's art, right, in itself. I like just looking at that, really nice, aesthetically pleasing and everything. Then it comes to the disc. Now the problem with the disc started when I first looked at it, and the fact that it has top scratches on it, which, if you know, on a disc is never a good thing. That is actually where all the data is, right at the top there. So if you do get scratches on this, there is a chance it won't play. The biggest problem I have, the actual condition of this disc is absolutely horrendous. There are no splits in the spindle, luckily, because that would have been obviously a deal breaker. But the amount of scratches on this is shocking. It is so bad. It is going to need to go through a disc cleaner, and even then I'm really not sure. So I'm going to get them to clean it up for me, and then I'm going to try it. I'm not going to try it now as is, because it doesn't matter. I'm going to take it back to be cleaned anyway, because this thing is appalling. One more scratch could be the end of it. I'm just more concerned about the top scratches, despite the fact that it is horrendous on the other side. Whoever traded this in just was not looking. Just absolutely didn't look at the disc. Just took it straight out and put it in the plastic wallet or whatever it was and just processed it. They did not care. And of course we're adding that to the collection as well, but I have 2 more games to put into the collection, and they're not 360 games. They're not a million miles away though, because they are Xbox One or Series X games. So there were quite a few games here that I actually wanted to pick up, 2 of which I was on the fence about. I decided I was going to buy one of them, and then I did what I always do, and I forgot, and I didn't. And now I would say I'm a little bit annoyed. I'm not really that annoyed. But the game in question is actually AEW Fight Forever. I watched a review of this the other day, and it is there for 12, but it is actually 10. So they've got it stickered wrong, classically. Back for Blood, I actually want that, but I'm kind of saving it for a budget buy because it's only a $5. But I watched a review of that AEW, right, and it looks bad, but I still want to play it. I watched Prometheus again for like the 400th time last night. Made me want to play Alien. Can't quite justify spending £18 on a game I don't know if I'm going to enjoy though. And I just don't see it staying at 18. But then do I? Because Alien Romulus came out, turned out to be a bit of a banger. The TV show isn't far away. I want this as well. This was on actually a game I was on the fence about. They have 2 in stock, and that's kind of what swayed me to leave it for now. Prince of Persia, which looks really good. The art style in this looks fantastic. And again, £18 for me, I think that's going to come right down. I think that I can see that being an absolute budget buy going forward. I don't think it's ever going to come to Game Pass because it's a Ubisoft game and they have their own subscription service. So I'm not necessarily waiting for it to come to Game Pass. But I think it'll come right down. I don't think £18 is the price it's going to stay at. And then we come to this, Civilization. I had this on the Switch a long time ago, and I now have it on the Xbox. I tried to play this on the Switch a long time ago, and the Switch said no. So the Switch is a fantastic console. It's one of my favourite, and I'm sure if you own one, you would probably argue it's one of your favourites, or you can see why people like it. And a lot of people will say that it's actually their favourite system of all time. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Unless, of course, you try to play anything that wasn't made specifically for the Switch on it. So this, for example, is not a game you can play on the Switch. It just can't handle it. There's too much going on. It can't process it. And it's a mess. And it runs at like 3 FPS. So I am really happy to put this into the collection. Slightly frustrating thing about this, and I don't know, it put me off wanting to buy it, and it's stupid, right? Because I can't get it for this price. But on the back, someone bought this in like a cash gen or cash converters or something for $2.99. It actually looks like a sticker from the pawn shop that is like 2 doors down from my CEX. So someone paid $2.99 for this once upon a time, and I've had to pay £8 for it. My next pickup is absolutely going to blow your mind. You are not going to believe how much I'm going to spend on this game. So before we get there, we have to flick through the rest of these games. Few dotted around the place that, like I said, that I wanted to pick up. That Ace Combat game, I was on the fence so much, but the fact that they had 2 copies, I just thought, well, I've got time to think about it. I wanted to pick up PES as well because I like football. New FIFA's coming out, and that's got me in a bit of a bind right now as well. I really want to play it, but I'm trying to resist the FOMO, because that's all it is. It's FOMO for this new FIFA, this new FC, whatever it's called, right? I want to play it, but after the first week or 2, I think it might die down to the point where I'm just happy to buy the standard edition at some point. Maybe it be with credit, or maybe I have to sell something to buy it or whatever. But I'm trying to like resist the urge to scramble all I can to buy the special or the ultimate edition so that I get early access, because I absolutely don't need it, but you get the game a week early. And that to me screams you need to do that because you can't miss out on a week worth of progress. But I absolutely can, and I need to just have a word with myself, and I'm trying my best, but I know what's going to happen. I'm going to end up selling a kidney or something. Anyway, as we get to the end of the Xbox section, Remember that game I said was £22 on the PlayStation 5? Well look, 35 on the Xbox. Now it's not actually 35 because classic local CEX, it's actually 32. But what I don't understand about this is actually a Game Pass game. It was recently added. So I can't quite believe that this hasn't come down from the 32 that it is, but I also can't believe that it's £10 cheaper on PlayStation than it is on Xbox, especially coupled with the fact that it's been on Game Pass for well over a week at this point. I honestly thought it would just fly down. I thought people would just start trading it in left, right and centre. Mudrunner games are not necessarily that common on Xbox. I don't see them as often as I do on PlayStation, for example, but it is a little bit strange that this one is seemingly holding its price right now. It's a game I want to play, but like I said, it is on Game Pass, so if I really want to play it, I can. I don't know an awful lot about the Mudrunner games. I've played one for all of 10 minutes on the PlayStation, and I didn't really get into it at all. I didn't know anything about it, didn't know what was happening, and I just turned it off because that's the sort of PlayStation side of me, I guess. Does that mean I spent £32 to pick up a game that was on Game Pass? Yeah, I did say you're not going to believe how much I spent on this game. No. I bought Jumanji for £6 because, well, I like Jumanji, and I thought, why not? I know what you're thinking. You say you like Jumanji, but surely you don't like that Jumanji. Yeah, guilty pleasure, I suppose. I actually really like it. I like it so much. I think it's better than the original. I don't. But there's just something about the sort of remakes, reboots, whatever they're called. I like them. And they are what I would call a popcorn film, right? It's just something you can chuck on in the background, you can dip in and out of, and I don't really need to pay attention to it 100%, and I get the idea of it. I know Jack Black is quite a controversial character these days, but I find him absolutely hilarious in that film. I'm not a massive fan of The Rock in films. I think he's a little bit too, awkward in places, or his acting is a little bit ropey here or there. But in this, I like him. Plays it quite well. And I like the second film as well. I know a lot of people probably won't, but it is what it is, right? And I wanted to play the game. I don't think it's a particularly long experience. I think it's probably only like a 3 or 4 hour game. But I'm actually quite into that at the moment. I like flying through games. I've spoken about this before. I like being able to sit down knowing that in one sitting or 2 sittings I'll be able to finish the game. I have the experience of playing through it. Maybe there's some extras I can do to sort of stretch out the length of the game a little bit, but if I just want to play the main story campaign or career mode or whatever, and it only takes me 3 to 6 hours, those are games I can absolutely get on board with. But going back to it, that's a cheap and cheerful game, short and sweet, £6, absolutely love it. I say that as if I've played it. It's probably terrible, but either way, if you've played that, let me know what you think of it. And that is my second load of pickups, and of course I will deduct the amount of credit that I've spent here off the overall amount. However, this is going to be up for debate because this may eventually end up going back. I'm going to get it cleaned. I might even go back today and get it cleaned, and then I'm going to see if it plays. And if it does play, we're good. If it doesn't play, we in trouble, and I'm going to have to take it back. And unfortunately, the search for a decent Toy Story game goes on because I still haven't picked it up on the Mega Drive since the day I had to take it back. Not through want of trying either. I just can't find it anywhere. I always say I don't like buying that many games in one go, and to be fair, it's nowhere near as many as I've been buying recently, but that is across 2 trips. But I love adding a big chunk of Xbox One games to the collection. And if you've played any of the games that I've picked up today, and maybe you have an opinion on them, maybe I shouldn't have bought them, let me know in the comments. I'll be back with another series video that isn't just me walking around CEX very, very soon. Until then, if you want to check out another video from me, you can click here. And until the next time, goodbye.